I go for the network. All right, it is 4:30. We'll call to order the meeting of the Moorhead Public Service Commission, Tuesday, October 19th. Customers wishing to address the commission for items that are not on the agenda, please fill out the request to speak form located in the back of the room on the counter and give it to the administrative assistants in attendance at the meeting prior to speaking. Customers wishing to address the commission regarding a specific agenda item other than the rate hearings will be given an opportunity during the discussion of that item. Each customer will be given 3 minutes to address the commission. We are here to listen. Any follow-up or feedback will be done by email on anything that cannot be resolved this evening. So, first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Sebastian, second by Mr. Paulson. Discussion? Do we need a roll vote or can we just? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. The agenda is approved. And now to approve the consent agenda. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Paulson makes the motion. Mr. McDougall seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The consent agenda is approved. Customers to be heard. I see none. None that I am aware of either. So we will go to number 7 on the agenda, old business. Nothing?
My microphone is not working. We're still working with the Onset Twitchell on the donation program stuff. So just an update on that.
So no update, nothing, okay.
Yes. Okay, it's working now.
All right. We cannot open the public hearing until 5:30.
5:30, yes.
Move down to number 9, reports. City Council, Mr. Hendrickson, what have you got?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not too much regarding MPS from the City Council. I just want to recognize the Census Complete Count Committee. They completed the census this year and they did a remarkable job, especially when it's COVID-19. So we recognized them at the City Council meeting and they did a great job. So. And this morning I had a chance to address the AWA Northwest District Water Operation School, and it was hosted in Moorhead. It's been 18 years since we've hosted it. Mayor Carlson couldn't be there this morning, so I just gave an introduction and I bragged about how we were best in glass for 3 years and then how we were on Dirty Jobs. So just a little plug for Moorhead and just, tell them about the great businesses in Moorhead and how we're a progressive city and how we're working and our business is increasing. So it's a business friendly place and that type of thing. So, but yeah, that's about it.
Excellent, thank you. Public Service Commissioners.
Well, Madam Chair, I guess I don't really have much. The budget committee met Sebastian and I, and we went through the detailed budget, and we'll probably talk more about that at the rate hearing, but very informative. I think we're sitting well. We got a nice long-term plan in place, and I didn't see any concerns, so.
Agreed.
Nothing to add?
Nothing extra. Jill kind
Alright.
of covered it all.
Very good. Very good. The HR committee subcommittee has not met.
Jerry will be reaching out to you guys probably tomorrow to schedule a meeting.
Okay. Okay. Anybody have anything else? All right. General Manager's report. Mr. Schmidt.
Sure. We'll start off with watering restrictions since Mark Pritchard is here. I'll let him talk, and then I'll go through the remainder of the report.
Thank you, Travis. Mark Pritchard, Water Plant Supervisor. Moorhead Public Service continues to stay within its Stage 2 mandatory watering restrictions as of today. We have not received any indication from the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources saying that we can relax our restrictions at this time and go back to Stage 1 restrictions. We have been keeping daily monitorings over the flow rates through the Red River at Fargo and some of our tributaries that feed the river system. We did get some recent rains last week that boosted up Orwell Dam in particular. However, now that those rain systems have gone back through or passed on, the water that has come through the system is now starting to curtail back. It's anticipated that within the next few days we'll be back into that 120 to 150 CFS, which is still right in the middle of where we would still have mandatory restrictions in place. So no change at this time, but we are continuing to speak with Department of Resources staff to see when we can go back to less restrictive phases.
I would expect this time of year, it's probably too late to make a lot of changes in that, correct?
It depends on what the fall precipitation really brings. We've had years where in the fall we get a lot of early snow or late rainfall going into November and early December, so that if it comes, it could change the outlook. But right now, most of the upper Red River Valley regions, such as Moorhead and the surrounding area, we're anywhere from 5 to 10 inches of precipitation behind what is considered normal. So we would need to get quite a bit of precipitation to get us back to a neutral baseline. So until we get closer to that, I'm anticipating that we continue to hold restrictions maybe through winter to see what spring looks like. But it's difficult to say. It depends on if we get extra precipitation. I'm sure that the DNR will be some of the first phone calls that we get after those rainfalls to say, Moorhead, you can go back to normal.
Very good. What restrictions would be in place over the winter? Obviously, lawn watering is not a consideration.
Right. We wouldn't really have a whole lot of deviation from what's considered normal. Mainly what Moorhead Public Service hammered down on was what was considered non-essential use or outdoor irrigation use. Over the winter, that would be almost zero, so we wouldn't really have any change in day-to-day activities for area businesses or residents. Where it could become more effectful is if the drought continues into spring and we still have these restrictions in place. But that's a long ways out, and we have our fingers and toes crossed for some good snowfalls this winter.
Anybody else have any questions?
Madam Chair, I need to ask because the one thing that does come to mind is backyard hockey rinks. Is that going to cause any problems for our residents?
Good question. We would most likely consider those the same as filling a pool in the summertime. If we still have our Stage 2 restrictions in place, we'll probably need to evaluate to see if we need to hold off on filling them. Good question.
Thank you.
I believe that almost comes under non-essential, but okay, we'll talk later, Mr. Paulson. All right. Thank you, Mark. I don't think there's any more questions. Thank you very much.
The frozen ponds. To finish off the general manager's report, September 2021, our past due balance rate was about 16.1%. Which is up a little bit from August of 21 and just a little bit above I'm missing it here. But overall, again, we're still moving forward with our past due accounts, with the payment plan agreements as well, and working through that. Mark's noted in his report, roughly 343 accounts are still utilizing the payment plan agreements that we put forth back in April through June timeframe. That was initially 554 of them. So either those customers are no longer residents in Moorhead, or they were unable to make any type, or weren't able to make their payments within the payment plan and their current balance payments as well. West Central is making some emergency fund approvals for those who qualify for LIHEAP assistance, and they are also doing the LIWAP, I don't know what you want to call it, Low Income Housing Water Assistance Plan. That helps with water and wastewater accounts as well too. Other than that, that's really where we're at. Cold weather rule started, of course, at the 1st of October, so that's we're working through that stage as well. So hopefully they'll be doing some mass approvals here beginning of November, which is pretty typical and common of West Central for what they're doing. So if somebody is struggling with being able to pay their bills, they should reach out to MPS or West Central Community Action Agency to apply for assistance through those programs. And then they could also do it through the Rent Help Minnesota. However, that process does take a lot longer to get approvals on as well too. Other than that, there's one thing that was not, or two things not in there. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So again, make sure you're not being hacked. And we appreciate our IT staff for keeping us protected. And finally, it's not in the packet. You'll probably see in the next packet, but we did get a letter from WAPA. There will be no drought adder increase for 2022. Which is a good thing. Helps with our budgeting process a little bit better. There was one thing that was noted in the letter. They will be going through a rate review next year, and if they deem it necessary, they might make some adjustments to the base rate. They could also have a drought adder rate increase as well too. That process, it's a public process. It starts early in the year, and then they should hopefully have things provided to us. Hopefully they'll start June, July time. We'll start getting some information on that. So that is all I have for the general manager's report.
Very good. Any discussion or questions? Travis, I would like to add, I am looking over to my side. There is an agenda, and it's a picture of the water tower. And I have been doing a lot of driving through down to southern Minnesota. I think we've got the prettiest water towers. They're great.
Yeah, good point. I think that the south side water tower, which we just commissioned, the brand new one, that was in the water tank painting of the year. I don't know where, was it first or second? We got third. So the other ones I think
Third
ours
nationally?
correct. So
We have good water and good places to keep it. This is good.
I think ours was number one, but maybe
Well, I've seen a few in southern Minnesota, and knowing what we've been through in the process, and I thought, oh, you skipped that part, did ya? But there's a few out there that are really good, I think, but ours rock. We're doing very well with that.
And one
Very
last,
nice.
Yeah, one last thing. I was in attendance this afternoon and provided a briefer presentation to the City of Moorhead budget work group on the MPS budget. So another piece to add to that.
Everybody's working on the budgets.
Everybody's working on budgets.
Very good. Now we've got, next up would be the report number 2 on the proposed 2022 budget.
Sure. I am going to take this one. No, this is the budget. So Taylor's chomping at the bit here. Mark's unable to be with us tonight, so helping him out here a little bit. Again, like Commissioner Paulson said, the Budget Committee met in early October, worked through some of the details and talked about the long-range planning, where we're at with everything. It's noted in your agenda what we've been discussing and adjusting since that. During that time and since we started the budget process itself. Again, overall, everything looks pretty good. We're looking at somewhere between, roughly a 0% overall for electric and 3.5% on the water side. Yeah, I'll open it up for questions on that. Yeah, everything, like I said, everything we've kind of know what's in the plan, what's in the program for next year. I know on the water side, they're looking at some cost-saving measures that could hopefully help us out long-term. Until those come to fruition, we got a plan for worst-case scenario. So that's kind of where we're at with our budget at this point. So we'll see how things go over the next year.
Mr. Bolger, does that require a motion to accept it? Yeah. Okay. Could we have a motion to accept the report?
I'll move to approve the report.
Second?
All those of you in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. And a report on electric service extension surcharges.
Sure. And again, this is the main reason for the electric rate hearing tonight. Other than that, everything's a 0%. I have Taylor Holt come up and speak about the electric service extension surcharge and why we have it and what we're doing with it and why we're adjusting it. Go ahead, Taylor.
Taylor Holt, Electric Distribution Engineer. This report's for the annual update to the surcharges, which is a part of the commission policy. And these surcharges are charged to customers that used to be a part of the Xcel Energy and Red River Valley Cooperative service territory. So we came in and took over that service territory. And the reason for these surcharges is to provide the recovery of costs associated with acquiring this electric service territory from another electrical utility, as well as pay those electrical utilities for their lost revenues. The amount of the surcharges is calculation that is approximately 1/2 of the difference in the rate between Moorhead Public Services electrical charge and what the current charge would be for the other utility. And the surcharges are only charged when MPS's rate is lower than the other utilities. So this update will also be included in MPS's rate setting process for the 2022 budget. Are there any questions on that? That is the report, so I think it should be accepted just like the previous one. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. All right, do we have a motion to accept the report on electric service extension surcharges?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Sebastian, seconded by Joel. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's approved. All right, moving on to number 10 on the agenda. Approve task order number 7 with DGR Engineering for AMI planning and implementation. Back to Taylor.
Taylor, yeah. Again, I'll have Taylor speak to this. Taylor's going to be in charge of the project as we move forward, and try to figure out what our new technology is going to look like and new metering system is going to look like for MPS. Okay, go ahead, Taylor.
So this task order is to start the process of hopefully implementing advanced metering infrastructure. It's kind of some technology that's been around for a little while. We've been kind of putting it off because it's a very expensive process, but we want to do the right job and investigate it to see if it's right for us, because it does open some opportunities and it opens up some doors for future time of use rates if that's a route that we pursue, and it's a proactive way to upgrade our system. In 2019, we renewed a 5-year task order agreement with DGR, so we'll be trying to utilize that existing agreement. And like I said earlier, it's a very expensive process, so the reason we're looking for external help is because we've really only got one shot at doing this. So we want to make sure we do it right up front. It is a very, very big process. We got a preliminary design phase, a development phase, and a construction and implementation phase. And then due to the size of the project, we're planning to be very specific on the options and features that we're looking for. And our plan is to utilize that in a request for information and proposal phase that will hopefully narrow it down to some vendors that no matter who ends up being the lowest bidder is one that we'll be happy with. I know it's a very high-tech project, but are there any questions on it that you may have right now?
Chuck?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You said you're going to send this out for RFP?
That's the plan in the design and development phase.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the time frame on that? Or do you know the time frame of the project? When is it going to be implemented?
As far as the preparation and going out for bid, I'm anticipating about a year, but it may end up being a 2 to 3 year implementation phase before we get it out to the entire city.
Okay, and then is there a guesstimate on the final project, or did you just give me that?
Yeah, that's as the final project, so a year for the bidding phases and then possibly 2 to 3 years on the implementation phase.
Okay, and that's going to be for every household in Moorhead?
That's the plan.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be every electric and water meter, or every electric meter and potentially water meter or some type of communication off the water meter to report back.
Okay, so they're all going to be inside. I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay, yeah,
Yes and
all of
no.
our electric, or majority of our electric meters are on the outside, and then
Right.
all the water meters are on the inside, correct, yep.
Okay, so it'll be a remote reading.
Correct, and we actually have a remote reading right now. We use an AMR system. It's a drive-by system where we have employees that drive around and do the route collections. This would be automated completely, where we wouldn't have employees driving around. We'd systematically place some collectors in the system, and they would be able to collect on a daily basis or 15-minute basis, whatever we're looking for from every meter.
And then those, might be a dumb question, but so those employees that are not driving around, you just shift their focus somewhere else?
Correct, yeah, we'll look at finding other work for them to do within the utility.
There's plenty of work, right?
Always something to do, so.
Okay, thank you both.
Questions?
So is that part of the main benefits of going to this system? You know, you said there's multiple benefits of going to this type of system. Is that just so you don't have to spend a lot of labor to drive around? They can just monitor the use back at the dispatch center or wherever. What are the other benefits to the system then?
There is actually quite a long list of benefits, so that's a good point. Obviously, not having those jobs, driving around and repurposing them, saves us a little money and gets more work done. It opens up the door to remotely disconnect and reconnect customers, which means that now we're not sending our meter technician out there to pull meters, which could be a safety risk, especially on the few meters that are still indoors. But at the same time, now we don't have to have them come back in after hours. We can have somebody working and remotely do it, saving a lot of overtime wages as well. Beyond that, like I stated earlier, we have the time of use rates, which allows us to more dynamically price the electric rates to reward people for using power when it's cheap, and then also collect the appropriate amount of money when the electric grid is being stressed a little bit and the electricity is higher costs. After that, we also will get a lot more data and more up-to-date, many more readings from these meters. So we'll be able to do a lot more engineering analysis, checking out the parts of the grid that might be stressed more during peaking conditions. We can focus on making sure that we can properly maintain and design projects to feed those areas more reliably. Along with that, there's apps out there where the customers should be able to see their data and actually be able to see what their daily bill is rather than just monthly. You can catch water leaks that the customers may not even know about. There's programs and algorithms set up where they can find that you might have a consistent running water, it might end up being a leaky toilet. Another valuable thing that we're looking at is in the customer service area, trying to let people know that there's an outage going on. And that's going to hopefully open up the phone lines and make our communication better. And then also get people back on much quicker, because we should be able to narrow down where the outage is actually at. Provide a decent list for you. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of visibility with the AMI system, and outage management is a key piece of that, where we could have the notifications sooner than just a phone call, and we know the area that's being affected and could maybe potentially get that stuff out there again once the AMI system is in place and things are operating. But I mean, there's a lot of good options and opportunities with it. You know, water leaks is a big one. If a customer has a leaky toilet, it costs them $4 a day. So it's a good thing to be able to inform them ahead of time so they don't have a month's worth of water loss instead and have to pay that bill. So there's a lot of good aspects to it.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what I'm hearing, it's actually environmental friendly too. We're stopping water, if we're checking on electricity rates. And you may not know the answer to this, but would this count towards our green step cities for the city of Moorhead? Or, because it is a separate utility, but I mean, would it?
There's a potential there. I mean, the next item actually on the agenda helped, I think, in that Green Steps program as well too, the 100% net zero carbon initiative. There's a potential for that. I think we'd have to talk with city staff a little bit more to see. I don't know what their next accomplishments need to be to get there.
Thank you.
The idea that no one's going to be driving around, that cuts out on emissions too. So that's a plus toward the green city.
It sounds great. I mean, remote monitoring, I mean, it's going to save environmentally, it's going to save gas, it's going to save people hours. It's just, it seems like it's just a win-win. Even the upfront investment seems like a lot, but I mean, if you look at the big picture, the long-term goals, it's going to save a lot of money for the city of Moorhead and for the utilities. So it's a good thing.
It's an estimated about an $8 million project, about $5 million for the electric and $3 million for the water division. So it's a major project, and we, like Taylor said, we want to make sure we do it right, because I don't want to be redoing this in 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a key piece to this, is we want the right system that's going to work for us. And there's a lot of data on the back end that, you know, we're going to have to house or absorb and figure out how to handle that as well too. So there's pluses and minuses to everything, but I think the benefits outweigh, you know, the extra costs. So
I can only see an upside on it. So thank you.
Taylor, I know it's early in the game and you haven't been with R&D yet and that kind of thing, but I'm assuming this is being put in place in other areas around the country or internationally, whatever. Will the current meters need to be replaced, do you know, or is it too early to know, or will there be an add-on to it?
All of the meters will need to be replaced on the electric side. We are investigating, and we haven't made full decisions on the water side as of yet. That's a lot up to Jake on what he ends up determining as the final decision, but there's communication devices available that we can plug into the existing meters. But long story short, every meter will need to be touched, and all the electric ones will need to be replaced.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or discussion?
Madam Chair, I have
Mr.
a
Paulson.
comment. I just looked up the Green Step cities and implementing efficient water system on the demand side. Pricing is considered a credit towards that. So I think it would apply, Councilmember Hendrickson. And then just going back to one of the comments that you made, so am I correct right now? Do we just charge per kilowatt hour regardless of peak usage time, or do we have a variable system set up to capture peak use on the electric side?
On our three-phase customers that are over 25 kilowatts in demand, we do have a demand charge. On customers that are less than 25 kilowatt hours, but do spike over 25, we have a separate demand charge that we provide to them, but oftentimes they come in under just your kilowatt hour charge. We have a few different kilowatt hour charges.
Yeah, and we do have a summer rate, so June, July, August has a different kilowatt hour rate, again, because of air conditioning, and then we've got a September through May a rate as well, too. So we do have a little bit of that dynamic pricing, but not to the extent of time of use.
So this would allow us to go to time of use billing and maybe look at our rate structures?
Correct. Yeah, good question. So 2023 Missouri River Energy Services is going to time of use pricing for wholesale. So the bill we get from them, and actually we've gotten a couple of them already where they're doing some ghost billing, where they're showing the differences between the two. I want a few more before we bring it to the commission and kind of show what it is. Initially, the review of it showed roughly a $20,000 a year adjustment between the time of use pricing. So they were, as Missouri River wanted to implement this, they wanted it to be somewhat cost neutral to the membership of Missouri River. However, with the current AMR system that we have, we don't have that capability of doing time of use. We would have to implement the AMI system to allow time of use for the retail rate for the customers.
So I think this is great because it gives us the flexibility to potentially bill in real time, dependent upon our energy costs that we're bringing in. And so we're more efficiently running our system. Not only that, but it also incentivizes conservation. So yeah, I think this is an excellent project.
Yeah, Missouri River is looking at, I think, 3 or 4 tiers or 3 or 4 different rates based on time of day. And I would guess we'd be somewhere similar to that as well, too, as we look at that. So, and actually in 2023, we'll be looking at doing a rate study on the electric side. So that'd be something we'd be, including in that rate study is what's the time of use rate's going to look like. So.
Can we put one of those meters in my kids' room or on their app so they can see how much they owe me for leaving their lights on?
I don't know about that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I did have a weird question. I don't know if it's prudent, but so we've had with COVID, a lot of people have transitioned to working at home. Would they see any rate increases, anything like when this starts up? Because say if they don't transition back to the office from when they've switched from, say, 2018 being in the office now, or 2019 being in the office to 2021, now they're all working at home again. Would that affect any of the rates at all? Or
Yes, it depends on the time of day, of course. Again, your overnight, probably 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 in the morning is going to be your overnight rate. And then you probably have a morning rate, and then you'll have a midday rate, and then a evening or peak rate. So yeah, it could potentially impact those that work from home. Mostly in the afternoon, I would suspect. Taylor's can answer that as well.
That's only if we go to time of use, where this has nothing to do with actually going there at this point in time. So the AMI portion of things will not affect it. The rates will be staying the same, and if everything goes as anticipated, it'll be the same this year as next year. So there'll be increased consumption, I would assume, because people are having their lights on and computers during the day. But like Travis said, if we do go to time of use, the power would be more expensive at home during the day, but it would be for everybody as well. There will be a good educational opportunity for our customers to help them understand what we're doing and why.
Well, I think that's right, and I think it gives the consumers the data that they can see and they can understand, okay, when I use more power during this time, it's more expensive because it's more expensive for us to purchase. And maybe it would incentivize, power usage outside of those peak hours, for certain things. I think it's great.
It's going to be a key piece as the electric vehicle industry continues to grow. Right now, they could plug it in at any point in time in the day and they're going to get charged, the same rate. If we change that, they're going to want to move it to the overnight rate because that's going to be the cheapest rate because that's when power production doesn't cost as much. So.
Mr. Paulson, maybe you could get these gentlemen to come out, talk to the kids, and explain time of use rate, that kind of thing?
You think
Would
they'll
that
listen
help?
to them and not me?
Not a
Chances
shot.
are much better.
Maybe.
No way.
Anything else for Taylor before we? Okay. Could I get a motion to approve task order number 7 with DGR Engineering for AMI planning and implementation?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. It's approved. Thank you, Taylor. I think
I
it was
did.
Joel's
Yeah.
turn this time. We move on to agenda item number 11, to approve Moorhead's continuation of 100% net zero carbon power supply through MRES's Bright Energy Choices program for 2022. Back to you, Taylor.
It's the Taylor show tonight, so I'm going to let Taylor speak to this. Again, this is, we started this last year, and based on everything we're seeing, we want to continue on with it. I'm going to let Taylor take it from there.
Like Travis said, this year was the first year, approved last year, and we're just asking that we continue it. The cost is actually coming in up to this point in the year, slightly lower than what was anticipated. I think that has a lot to do with having a slight drop in sales than what were projected. But another aspect of things is the carbon-free power supply that we're receiving from our power suppliers is actually coming in a percentage point higher than what it did in 2019. So we're slowly improving from that. I think a lot of that's due to the power being available on the markets for Missouri River, but it's always a positive thing for us. What was discussed last year was this is a low-cost option to make Moorhead 100% carbon-free, and the rates are going to remain the same year over year, and I don't think we plan on increasing our consumption year over year as far as projections go at this point. So I anticipate that the cost will be roughly the same next year as it is this year. Are there any questions anybody has?
Madam Chair, I'll just mention, we talked about this during the budget committee, and we did include this in the 2022 budget. Personally, I believe this is a great program, and for the ability for the city of Moorhead, Moorhead Public Service to tout 100% renewable energy, I think it's pretty impressive. I think we're the only community around the area that can say that. I don't know, I might be wrong, Travis, but
Barnesville does it as well.
is Barnesville's, okay.
Yeah, they climbed on second right after us, I think, as well, too.
Okay, but I still think we're leading in our region when it comes to clean energy, and I would personally be in favor of continuing to move forward with this program.
I forgot to add one thing. There's no formal agreement to this, so we can opt out at any time. So it's not like we're signing pen to paper or anything. It's just continuing on with the program.
So there's no commitment per se.
There was initial, an original commitment last year, I think, and then they just want to make sure that if we want to continue on with it, that we inform them of it. So it's you guys taking action to approve this, continue on, is all that we need tonight.
Any other questions, discussions? All right. So we need a motion to continue or discontinue.
So moved.
Second?
Sebastian made the motion, and it was Mr. Paulson's turn to second the motion. What else has Taylor got for us? That's it. Oh, dang, you were really in the groove there. All right, we move on to agenda item number 12. We need to,
You got to do yays and nays.
oh, yeah, I suppose we have to vote on the motion. Hey, I'm new. All right, all those in favor of approving Moorhead's continuation of 100% net zero carbon power supply through MRES's Bright Energy Choices program for 2022, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? It's approved. Now we move on to agenda item number 12. Approve task order number 2020-2 with Sandman Structural Engineers for renovations at 415 Highway 75 North.
And I'm going to take this one and probably the next one, and the next one as well. So 415 Highway 75 North is a property that we own just north of the current water plant, or the new water plant as we sometimes call it. A tenant moved out last August. That was in the south third of the building. The building is in need of some repair. It needs a new roof on it. The walls or the outside of it also needs to be re-skinned. And we're going to probably put some new insulation in that as well too. So that as part of what I'm requesting tonight is that the commission approve all three, or the base option and both alternatives. That would be to replace the roof and the walls on it. And then what they're also going to do is they're going to look at the south third of the building where the Believers Fellowship Church was in, and look at coming up with a concept for a business office in case we need to utilize that in the future for any reason, way, shape, or form. So, but we're just kind of getting prepared for the future. So total cost is $73,000, I think, not 53, or 71,000. Yep, 71. I think it's wrong in the report.
It is 71?
Excuse me, 71. Yeah, it's 14.5 to do the roof. I think it's another $8,500 or so to do the walls, and then, or $3,500 to do the walls, and then $53,000 to come up with a conceptual design for the inside of the building. So,
Mr. Schmidt, is the foundation pretty solid? Have we looked
Yep.
at that kind of thing?
yeah, so we, Sandman Structural and actually YHR Engineering or Architectural was on site with me this summer. We took a walk through the building. The building is actually a steel truss building. It's not stick built, so the bones inside are good. The concrete looks good. We actually utilize the north half or north 2/3 as storage for our stuff. So based on what I can see, the concrete does look like it's in good shape. As we go through the process, we probably will have to look at either redoing the concrete in the parking lot or maybe putting new blacktop on that. So that'll be something we'll have to look at, or that'll be probably looked at as well when we do the construction or reconstruction of the, to make it into an office building. I think we would hold off until the office building actually becomes an actual, something we're going to do. Another key piece too, we anticipate this property to not be needed for water plant resources. So, and those water plant resources are probably 40 to 60 years out. Be a new water plant in that location. So, putting new roof on it, new walls on it should make it last for that amount of time. So,
Any questions? Mr. Hendrickson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question. Is it heated? Just kind of wondering.
currently?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. There is a on the former church building portion. They have a forced air system that's on the roof. As part of the review, they'll look at maybe potentially removing the unit that's on top of that, and they've got. I think they've got a couple other forced air units internally into it. So it's kind of a mismatch. It was kind of just put together. So we're looking at maybe adjusting that. The north 2/3 is, we do have heat in that as well too. It's heated for storage as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Schmidt, do you know the rough age of that building?
Up there in age.
Ballpark. Over 21, legal in all states. Well,
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
Mark, do you, I'm not sure. When we bought it? Probably 40 to
Okay.
60 years, somewhere in there,
all right.
so.
Which would make sense with the repairs and
Yep.
things that it needs, but,
Yep.
okay, I was just curious there because, you know, you referenced insulation and things like that, and.
It's definitely got a lighter insulation. I think that's part of the loss of heat that I think, you know, that was a concern that the church had, and I think we see it on the other side as well in costs for heating that side. Again, we only keep it probably 45 degrees, 50 degrees in there, so it's not super warm, but it's warm enough so that you can get in there and
Sure.
not be out in the cold.
Okay. Well, and construction technology in the past 40 years has changed drastically. Any questions? Comments? All right. Could we get a motion to approve task order number 2020-2 with Sandman Structural Engineers for renovations at 415 Highway 75 North in Moorhead?
Move for approval?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Mr. McDougall. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It is approved. Now we have a policy on physical and cyber security.
I'll take this one. As noted in the background, we currently do not have a policy on physical and cybersecurity for Moorhead Public Service. So staff, as we were talking during strategic planning and even prior to that this year, that was a key thing that came up on how do we handle some of this stuff. And, you know, we've got a lot of facilities, whether they're water storage facilities, substations, well houses, things like that. And we've had a common practice of using industry best practices for everything, but we've never really put it on paper. So really, what we're trying to do is formalize that and being able to make sure that not only do we physically protect our assets, but we also do it from a cybersecurity aspect as well too, and making sure we're using the best industry practices. So in front of you, you've got a commission policy that basically delegates the requirements to the general manager. And then I've also attached a administrative policy for physical and cybersecurity. We had made some minor modifications. The physical and cybersecurity was actually a SCADA policy, or SCADA security policy, or networking policy. And we just basically took that, modified it, and encompassed everything from physical and cybersecurity into it so that it took care of the whole gamut of what we do on a day-to-day basis for physical and cybersecurity. There was a group of MPS staff, Mark Pritchard, Jake Long from the Water Division were there, Kurt McLean, IT staff, IT administrator, along with myself, Jerry Borman from HR, and then Electric Division staff, Taylor Holt, Matt Marks, that deals with all the NERC requirements, and then Eric John from distribution supervisor. So just looking at it, how we approach everything, it's going to require some adjustments as well too. We might, we've always been we have physical security, whether it's cameras or locked gates and things like that, but we just need to make sure that put everything on paper so that everybody knows what the marching orders are as we move forward. So everything needs to be locked up, everything needs to be monitored, things like that. So that's really what I have in front of you this evening for you to review. I'll answer any questions that you have, and if there's any adjustments, we can discuss those as well.
Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, we would need a motion to approve the policy on physical and cybersecurity. Mr. McDougall, I think it's your turn.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's approved.
Got about 10 minutes. Do you want to take a little recess?
Would you like a 10-minute recess? We can't begin the public hearings until, or the rate hearings until 5:30. Very good. We'll take a 10-minute, or, yeah, 9.5-minute break. I know, you got hockey. I know.
Oh, I know.
Has no chance but to be on the A team anyways. It's gonna break her heart.
For guaranteed A spot.
Wow.
They have this sign.
1 minute warning.
They have this sign above the urinal that says, "Don't spit snooze in here."
Well, especially when the Hanson brothers
Which is
get
why
there.
I've
Come on
never
now.
gone north of
That's the
Crookston.
classic still.
So there's a garbage right behind you. When I went
Okay.
in there, yeah, it was just full of snooze.
We have 30 seconds.
We'll clean it up here. That's not on the record yet, is it?
All right, it is 5:30, therefore I would like to open the public hearings. Before we begin, I will be reading the rules of conduct. As stated in Article 5, Section 7, Rules Governing the Conduct of Rate Hearings of the Moorhead Public Service Commission bylaws, adopted November 14th, 2017. No rate change shall be adopted by the commission unless the commission first holds a public hearing, affording all affected parties a chance to participate. A notice of said hearing shall be published in the official newspaper of the city at least 10 days prior to the date set for the hearing. The notice shall indicate the purpose for, the time, date, and place of the hearing. The hearing shall be conducted by the chairperson or a commissioner selected by the commission. At the hearing, the commission and its staff shall present the facts establishing the need for and the reasonableness of the proposed rate change. Sufficient time shall be allowed to enable all interested parties to be heard, but the commission shall determine when all relevant testimony has been presented or when testimony has become repetitious. Testimony will be considered only after a speaker has been recognized and the person has identified him or herself. For 30 days subsequent to the closing of the hearing and prior to the adoption of a rate change, written testimony shall be received and considered by the commission. The commission may grant extensions prior to the adoption of the rate change if it finds that additional testimony is necessary or productive. After all relevant testimony has been submitted, the commission shall adopt rates which it determines to be necessary and reasonable, including the effective date, and cause the same to be published in the official newspaper of the city. I would now ask for a motion to open the electric rate hearing.
So moved?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Paulson, second by Mr. McDougall. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? This hearing is open.
Right, I'll go ahead. Shirley, you want to bring up the presentation? Thank you. All right, we'll start with the electric rate hearing as you guys just approved. Again, how are electric rates determined? Again, we are a cost of service based utility. Our last electric rate study was in 2018. Our next rate study will be 2023. This is a little out. Actually, it's actually perfectly on. Usually we go 5 years within our policy between electric rate hearings, and we go roughly 7 years for water rate hearings. I think we paused water because of COVID for 1 year. Again, long-range planning that we do, purchase power and transmission forecast, those are always something that's necessary for us to review on an annual basis, as those are outside services that we receive, and we don't have any authority over the approvals of those, whether they adjust them up or down. So that is a major piece of that. Like we talked about earlier this evening, WAPA doesn't have a drought adder increase, but potentially some adjustments could be made next year, so we'll be watching that as we go through the 23 budget process. Again, city transfer, that is under an agreement right now, which finalizes in 2023. So during 2023, we'll be looking at making a renewal of that agreement between City Council and MPS Commission. Again, operating expenditures, capital improvement plans, and reserve requirements are all other parts of that long-range planning that we've discussed with Mr. Paulson and Mr. McDougall. Again, annual in-depth review, it's a 4-month process. Again, that is all based on, typically it would be 3 months, but it's 4 months due to having to work with WAPA and Missouri River Energy Services. Again, rate increase proposal, we work with the Budget Committee on that. Staff's work into a plan that's provided to Mark Moylan, our controller, and myself. And then from there, we put together what the rates are going to look like, and again, trying to minimize rate increases as much as possible. From there, the committee suggests what the rate increases should look like, and from there, we go to the public hearing, which we're at tonight, and then we'll do a final adoption on December 21st. Again, overall, like we talked about earlier tonight, 0% rate increase for 2022. And the caveat is, of course, that we have to deal with the surcharge that we're doing. So right now, we are not looking to have an increased a rate increase on the electric side for the next few years. However, that could be up for discussion next year based on what WAPA does with their base rate. So again, overall cost of service, there's no changes to that. Again, the surcharge is the biggest thing, which we talked about earlier this evening. Again, that is a major piece of this. Another key piece to be thinking about, back when we did the payment plan agreement offering, we did suspend late fees and reconnection fees. That ends at the end of this year. So that's something to be thinking about as well, too. Overall, again, like we said, there's going to be some minor adjustments for both your electric surcharge and your dual fuel surcharge. Red Rivers is going up about 7%. Again, they're still lower than what they would typically pay with Red River Valley Co-op, and same with XL Energy as well, too. So there's XL is going to go up about 11.5%. But again, you'll be paying less at Moorhead Public Service, just more than the in-town or the customer that isn't in a service territory annexation area. Other than that, again, we've got our 4 renewable programs: Capture the Energy, Capture the Sun, and Capture the Earth, along with Capture the Wind, which was the initial project or initial program that we had. Still continue on today. Again, overall, as you'll see on this slide, no changes in the rates between 21 and 22, and you can see that the rate increase is not adjusting as well, too. That is for your residential and for dual fuel. Again, customer charge stays the same, your electric consumption, and then your total bill of $93.24. Now, that's looking at 850 kilowatts per month. Questions before I move on? Okay, I'll keep going. Again, overall, here's the adjustments on our commercial side of things, our small general service, like Taylor talked about earlier this evening, and then our regular general service. And you can see that, again, no adjustments there either. Again, overall, where does the money go on a monthly basis from your electric bill? Again, assuming 850 kilowatt hours is what you would utilize in a month. 42% and 42.5% go to purchase power. City transfer is about 19.4%. Capital expenditures, not finance, is about 19%. Salary, wages, and benefits is about 9.6%. And other expenses or other operating expenses is about 6.1% or 6.16%, and then principal interest is about 3.2 for all of our debt service, and then just an increase in our reserves is just a minor piece of that as well, too, at about 0.04%. Again, overall, as we move forward from 2021, Dennis did earlier in the year, we are going to be the lowest on the residential side for the first time in a long time. We'll not by much, but we are the lowest in the region here as well, too, or the metro. Again, that's looking at it based on 800 kilowatt hours a month. Again, overall, here's a little bit of history. We had a few increases in 15, 16, and 17. For the past 4 years, we've had no rate increases, and again, projected 0% for 2022. See what 23 through 25 looks like, and then there's a potential rate increase looking out to 2026 as well too. Again, overall, impact to a customer's bill. And we'll talk about this in the water rate hearing, but it's going to be about a 1.2% impact based on electric and water charges for a normal average residential customer. From that, I'm done with the presentation. If you have any questions, we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. I am not seeing any customers to be heard. So can we move on then to water?
Yes, we can.
Oh, we have to close. I forgot
Yeah.
that. Oh, got it. All right.
Move to close the hearing?
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Paulson, seconded by Mr. McDougall to close this hearing. Are there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The hearing is closed. And now we would like to have a motion to open the hearing on water rates.
So moved?
Second?
Motion by Mr. McDougall and seconded by Mr. Paulson. Any discussion? All in favor of opening this public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We are now in public hearing session.
Up online. There it is. Thank you. Again, we'll breeze through this very similar to the last one. Again, how are water rates determined? Again, cost of service based. Our last water rate study was 2017. And we'll be looking at doing one next year for the water division as well too. Again, we do have conversations on an annual basis with Missouri River staff. Missouri River does both our water and electric rate studies for us. So they've got a really good, with all the members they have, they typically do a lot of that for all the members. Again, consider long-range planning. Again, 10 years, operating expenses, including chemical pricing estimations, are key factors that we look at. Capital improvement plans. Again, we're getting done with a lot of major projects over the past 6-7 years. The high service pump station, the lime sludge dewatering facility, the new water tower, and the refurbishment of the other 3 water towers. So hopefully we're getting to a point where we can get some maintenance done on the water plant. And then, of course, we got, like I said, capital improvements, also dealing with the cast iron pipe water main replacement, and then, of course, making sure we have our debt service and reserve requirements met as well, too. Annual in-depth review. It says 4 months there, but technically it's actually 3 months because we don't have any outside sources of information to receive that from. Again, we do coincide the electric and water budgets with the budget committee, so not only do we talk about the electric, we get to talk about the water with the budget committee and see what they want to do. Again, we're here tonight for the public hearing and final approval on, again, December 21st. What is the rate increase funding? Capital improvements over the next 5 years are going to be roughly $26.1 million. 12.7 million of that is to replace the South Buffalo Wells raw water transmission line. Again, we're looking at some other alternatives to funding that over doing a bonding or a dwarf funding loan application. Potentially looking at maybe some state bonded money or some other external sources like BRICS funding or something along those lines where we could have no cost, which would help reduce our overall debt issuance on the water side. Again, $6.5 million for water main replacement projects. Again, those are currently, we're coinciding those with all city street projects that are going to be going on as well too. $3 million for the AMI or automated meter infrastructure project. And then we got roughly $3.9 million in plant equipment and facility upgrades and replacement. Again, those are to update and enhance the water purification system, chemical feed systems, update monitoring and laboratory equipment and requirements, enhance security of systems and facilities, replacing aging fleet, and rehab and update of underground storage tanks as well too. Again, 3% is the overall increase and we'll go through that in a little bit. As you see here, this is the customer charge portion of the rates, and you'll notice that those are all above the 3.5%, but again, it's the overall 3.5% that we'll get down to. So this is just the customer charge portion of your bill. So this is a flat fee that you see on a monthly basis based on the size of the meter that you have. Again, we'll look at the four different types of customer classes that we have. We've got our residential. That's going to be an overall 3.7% increase, and it'll vary a little bit between May and October and November to April as well too. But overall, 3.7%. Apartment buildings are going to be roughly overall 3.2%. Commercial 3.7%, and then industrial overall is 2.8%. Again, looking at it from the perspective of a residential customer, which is our largest customer base, you'll see the customer charge go up by about 60 cents on a 3/4 inch meter. Commodity charge goes up 90 cents, and then the fire protection infrastructure charge goes up 10 cents. This is the last year of that phased in true cost adjustments that we've been doing. So overall, average month for an average customer, $1.60 is the overall increase for a customer. Got the proposed overall 3.5% rate increase on fire protection. Residential is 4.4% increase. Commercial is 3.43%. Apartments 4.43%, and then industrial goes up 4.49%. Those are numbers that we work with Missouri River on to put together as well too. Again, where does your money go? Average water portion of your bill, or water charges on your utility bill, are roughly $43.09 on a monthly basis. 9.7% go to chemicals. City transfer is 5.3%. Capital items not finance is 25.6%. Salary, wages, and benefits, 26.4%. Other operating expenses is 18.4%. Bond reserves is 0.3%, and then principal, interest, and payments is roughly 14.3% overall. So that's where your money goes on a $43 bill on average. Again, if you look at the overall, how do we compare to other utilities in the region or metro, we are right in the middle with this increase. Will be on the higher side of the middle for 2022. So a couple smaller, a couple higher, but we'll be kind of right in the middle there. Again, how have we done, or how do we compare historically with our own water rates? We've had some very high years over the past, or the last 7-8 years. 6.5s, 5.3%, and 6s. Last year was our first year that we slimmed that back to 3.5%. Again, we're looking at another 3.5% for this year, and looking at that going out with the budget committee, we think that is very feasible for the long term, or out to probably 2027, 2028. Depending upon any type of additional projects or things that come up that we're not aware of, that could adjust as well too. But for now, we think 3.5% is the plan for the near future. Again, overall, you're going to see a customer for water will see a 3.86% overall rate increase, and then nothing on the electric side, which gets you down to a 1.2% rate increase to your bill. So again, nothing major, no major changes from that. Up for any questions?
I just have one comment, Madam Chair. Like, I think it's pretty outstanding that, we can keep rates lower than just the standard rate of inflation. So, I mean, we're going in the right direction since we're keeping it so low. And, we're pretty lucky to have the WAPA allocation and everything on the power side. And then the ability to provide world-class water, at competitive rates. I think we're doing everything right. So I know it's a bit of a raise, but I felt comfortable that it was all justified. We're keeping it lower than the rate of inflation, and we're just kind of keeping up with where we're at. So that's all I have to say.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? No? Is this when I open it up to the public? Seeing none. Seeing no customers to be heard here, I would then request a motion to close the water rate hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Joel moves to close the hearing, and Sebastian seconds it. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's approved. Thank you.
Got to read.
I know. I got to get to that part. Written comments will be received for 30 days from the date of this hearing, and no action will be taken on the rates until 30 days from the date of this rate hearing. For comments to be considered by the Commission, written comments should be postmarked no later than Friday, November 19th, 2021, and mailed to the Moorhead Public Service Commission, Post Office Box 779, Moorhead, Minnesota 56561-0779. A formal decision regarding MPS's 2022 rate structure will be determined at the Commission's meeting on or about December 21st of 2021. Additional information on our proposed budget and rates is available at the website mpsutility.com. I don't believe we have a need for any executive session. No?
On tonight.
Not tonight. Do I need a motion to close the meeting? To adjourn? Yeah. I would ask then.
So moved.
I'll second then.
Motion by Joel and second by Sebastian. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Say
Aye.
aye. Those opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Here we go.